So Kevin says if we get a parking ticket, we can include it in what I spend in a week.
A few moments later.
Are you for real? No. Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. It's Miki, and the last time I filmed one of these was actually 3 years ago when I was 24 years old. Obviously plus 3, I'm currently 27 years old, so I thought we would redo this video. If you've been watching the last couple of videos, then you may know that February is a whole month of finance videos, so this is right in line with that. Without further ado, let's jump into what I spent as a 27-year-old nurse and content creator living in Seattle, Washington. I'm also going to tell you my baseline living expenses, including my mortgage, my utilities, Wi-Fi, phone bill, etc. So make sure you stay tuned until the end for that. Starting off strong on a Monday. I thought that we were going to start off this challenge really strong, but the first expense that we had was actually Panera bread for $32.40. I literally intentionally did not eat out this day because I wanted to do well on this challenge. All day I've just been eating food around the house, including this corn soup that I ordered from Japan. We are about to eat dinner. Today's been a rather uneventful day for what I spent in a day because we've just both been working all day. Kevin is currently on call. We actually bought Panera bread on Sunday, but it just didn't charge my credit card until Monday, so that's fine. My next purchase was for $110.24 from Amazon. This is much higher than my typical Amazon purchase. I would tell you guys what it is, but it's actually Kevin's Valentine's Day present, and he's sitting right here. So I'm not gonna tell you guys what, don't look! So I'll pop it up on the screen, but it was quite a pricey gift, if I do say so myself, and that's only part of his Valentine's Day gift. The total for Monday ended up being $142.64. Maybe Tuesday will be better, right? Moving on to Tuesday. So Kevin's 30th birthday is this year, and that is in April, so that means that we need to do some planning. I'm not a huge party person, and I'm very introverted, and I like to stay home. Kevin is way more the like hostess with the mostest, spontaneous, wants to host things with all of his friends, and so we actually are throwing a big birthday bash for him. Most of his closest friends are actually from college, which means that they are dispersed all throughout the United States. Actually, none of them are in Seattle with us, and they actually all kindly agreed to come to Seattle to celebrate his birthday, which is super awesome. Because of that, I did book a Vrbo, which is basically like an Airbnb equivalent, and that ended up being $1,791.75. But I want to caveat that because this is being split amongst lots of people, so I divided it out, and Kevin and my portion will be $450, which sounds a lot better than the $2K. I'm really glad that we are not filming this during Kevin's birthday week because that is probably going to be a crazy expensive week. And then on Tuesday, I actually got to see one of my longtime friends. Hello, it is currently Tuesday. It's the next day, and today I'm about to see one of my childhood friends, and I'm assuming we're gonna eat out for lunch, so we're about to make our first expenditure. So I ended up treating her to a meal in Seattle, and that meal was at Momiji's, which is a very popular restaurant that I'd never been to, and it ended up being $71.45. That brings our total for Tuesday to $521.45. I feel like it really should be like $70, but because of Kevin's birthday bash, it ended up being far more expensive than it was supposed to be. Again, the point of working hard and earning money is to be able to celebrate and do things that you want, and so I don't feel like it's a bad expense. And obviously I'm not gonna have Kevin pay for his portion of the Vrbo because that would be rude. Okay, Wednesday. This was a very wonderful day. Probably one of the best days I've ever had. Where do I start? So this day we were like, I need to do better in the challenge. We did our grocery haul, which we usually do once or twice a week. So we went to Trader Joe's, and the groceries themselves were only $30.12, which is pretty reasonable. I would say on the ranking of grocery stores, Trader Joe's is kind of right in the middle, where the prices are relatively reasonable and you can get a lot of things that are very yummy and specialty as well. The issue with the Trader Joe's, let's just insert the footage, okay? Hello, we are currently at Trader Joe's. We just parked in a spot that we're not supposed to park in, so Kevin says if we get a parking ticket, we can include it in what I spend in a week. Anyways, we need to make some cookies and banana bread, so we need to pick up butter and a couple other things. Are you for real? No.
Parking service? They literally make money from this.
$65? Are you kidding me? This is the worst day ever.
Mostly because she has to say
I've parked here before.
On the weekends, during the week. People...
What the? Who Where are they? So as you can see, we ended up getting a parking ticket for our less than 10-minute shopping trip at Trader Joe's, and that ended up being $66.50. So instead of the groceries costing $30, it ended up totaling to $96.62. Very expensive groceries, if I do say so. Many of you guys also know that I'm back to school, and during the week I usually have class. The course is about $300 for 10 weeks, which I feel is very reasonable, which breaks down to about $30 a week. That brings our Wednesday total to $126.62. Thursday. This is actually a day that I worked a 12-hour shift. Kevin was so kind to help me pack lunch, so no expenses there. The day actually went really well, and this was one of the days that I actually got to sit down and eat lunch. The unfortunate thing about going to work is that I did have to pay for parking. Parking is $18.99. Oh, $18.99 is very expensive. When I first moved to Seattle, I'm pretty sure the parking was $17.99 or $18, and so in the last couple of years this has gone up by $1, which is unfortunate. And I think as long as you pass parking there for 4 hours, you have to pay the full $19. So yeah, I had to pay that, which is sad because it's like straight out of my credit card. It's not pre-tax dollars or being taken out of my paycheck or anything. This is just like straight out of my pocket. And then I did do some retail therapy when I got home, and I placed 2 Amazon orders, but in my defense, these are business expenses. First thing that I ordered was for $20.95. This is the Misha Time Revolution Essence. It's supposed to be an SK2 dupe, and I really wanted to test it out so that I could tell you guys whether or not it was a viable option. I personally do use the SK2 Essence, and I feel like it works great, but the price tag on that is quite hefty, and so I made the splurge to try to see if this was going to be a good replacement. In addition to that, I was doing some Ayo style makeup looks related to a brand deal that I was working on, and so I did place some orders for makeup products, and that ended up being $21.82. That night, we actually went to Sushi Kashiba. For those who are not familiar, Kashiba is one of the most iconic sushi restaurants in Seattle. Might I say the nation? I believe it's in the top 100 open table restaurants of the United States. Chef Kashiba is Chef Jiro's student, and I have to say Sushi Kashiba really does have just like insanely good fish. Our good friend was going to be in town, and so we decided to go to dinner with him, and Kevin and I also decided that it would kind of be our Valentine's Day-esque dinner. Kevin ended up getting omakase, which was around $150, and I ended up getting a la carte, which was probably around $100 or so, plus gratuity and everything like that. It ended up being $330 between the two of us. Kevin did kindly pay for this meal, and so my total for this will be $0. It was very nice of him to do that. Food is certainly one of the things that we do splurge on every once in a while. I would say maybe once every 2 months we'll do something fancy like this. And that brings our total for Thursday to $61.76, which would be a much nicer number if you subtracted the $20 from work, but it's fine. We were net positive because I went to work. Okay, Friday. This was our Friday fun day. This day we actually ended up going snowboarding. One of the flexibilities we've had for the last month or so is replacing a weekday as a day off and a weekend day as a day on instead. Kevin and I actually prefer to have weekdays off because we're not big fans of waiting in big lines and being with the crowd, especially when it comes to snowboarding. The slopes, the lift lines get incredibly long, and so not only are the weekends more expensive ticket-wise, but you also get less runs in. So this day we ended up going snowboarding. Looks like it snowed a couple inches last night, so we're hoping for not too bad of a day. We ended up buying these snowboarding tickets in a package, and they were $230 for 3 days, which means that it's $77 per person per day. There's Kevin and myself, so 77 times 2 gives us $153, plus tax makes it roughly around $169. The lift tickets are the only thing that we really have to pay for because we have already gotten all of our own gear. And don't even get me started on that because that alone was thousands and thousands of dollars, but I'm thankful that in the years to come it will be much less than that. On this day, I was also charged for my ring yearly plan, and that ended up being $44.09. I'm actually gonna just take this out of the equation altogether and include it in the subscriptions later on. And then Amazon purchases. We did buy some bed sheets for $40, but these ended up actually being returned, so I will remove that as well. For dinner after snowboarding, we did go and get Korean food, which Kevin again paid for. Very nice of him, so my total for that was $0. And that makes our Friday total $169. Saturday was was a rather mellow day, we went to go get some groceries at Amazon Fresh for $14.12. And in addition to that, I also did buy some bakery items, and that ended up being $8.10, making our Saturday total $22.22. And on Sundays, $0 was spent. We spent the whole day playing board games and eating the food that we already had at home. So Sunday was definitely our best day so far. That brings our grand total of the week to $1,013.69. If I were to multiply that by 52, which is the number of weeks in a year, oh god, that is arriving at $53,000, which is quite high, especially considering that that doesn't include the things that Kevin is also spending. Let's also talk about my baseline living expenses, starting from housing. Some of you may know that I ended up buying my own house in Seattle back in 2021. So instead of rent, I am paying a mortgage. My mortgage is just around $3,000, which is definitely much higher than I used to be paying for rent. However, it is a mortgage and this is a house that I own, so I feel like paying a little bit more for a mortgage is still far more worthwhile than throwing money away. Water, sewage, garbage. Now this is billed for me every 2 months, and if I were to look at the average throughout the year, I would say it's about $110 per month. Wi-Fi. I've made so many videos talking about this. Every year the Wi-Fi gets more expensive, but if you get on customer service and you tell them that you are considering terminating, they will give you a better offer. I was able to get my internet, which last year was around $70, back down to $48 at the exact same speed. Nothing has changed except for the price. For electricity, this really varies between the summer and the winter months because it gets quite cold in Seattle. We almost always have the heaters on. Because we have animals, the heaters are usually on even when we aren't home. During the winter time, it's usually about $90 a month, and in the summer, it's usually about $40 to $50 a month. Since it's currently winter, we're going to be using $90 a month to calculate. Recently, my phone bill has unfortunately been $76 a month. This is because I switched from the AT&T prepaid phone plan to now using Google Fi. The advantage of Google Fi is that when I travel internationally, I don't have to use roaming. Everything works exactly the same. I don't have to switch a SIM card. Like literally all I have to do is take my phone to another country and it works perfectly. With this plan, I have 50 gigs of high-speed data a month, which I almost never hit. Because I have been traveling so much for work and for business trips, this has been incredibly useful for me, but I am definitely paying a premium price for this service. So we're going to divide all of those costs by 4 to get the weekly cost, which gives us a total of $831 for everything related to the house. Now let's talk subscriptions. I really pride myself in being somebody who does not have a ton of subscriptions. I'm also very good about canceling things that I no longer use. That being said, I still do have a large handful of things, so let's just go through them one by one. Netflix, I'm paying $13 a month. I have the low-D, the not HD, the low-D, I don't know what it's called, but I have the lowest plan where the quality is not as good and only one person can watch it at a time. That used to be $9 and they recently upped it to $13, which is not the best. Next up, we have Spotify. I actually pay for the family plan, and this is currently $17 a month. I house myself, Kevin, and my parents on this plan, and I don't charge anybody for it. Next up, we have Adobe Cloud, so I am using Lightroom and Photoshop on here. This is $11 a month. Crunchyroll, probably my favorite and most used subscription, another $11 a month. And then in addition to that, I have 2 annual subscriptions. One of them is for the Ring camera, so this is a security camera system, and this costs $44 a year. I also have Amazon Prime, which is priced at $139. So I'm going to break down those yearly costs into monthly costs and then break down the monthly costs into weekly costs. That means that I am paying $17 a week for all of my subscriptions. Now adding up the 3 total numbers, we're going to be adding everything that I spent this week, all of my baseline costs related to housing, and all of my subscriptions. That makes our grand total for the week $1,891.69, which if you multiply by 52 gives you the yearly total of $98,367. That is a lot of money. Yeah, I think it's really powerful to track the amount that you spend in a week and multiply by 52, and that'll give you a rough idea of how life is going. I do think housing costs, you know, you kind of have to take that with a grain of salt and factor it in differently so that you can kind of see where you're going. So excluding the housing costs, that's just around $100K of expenses a year if I keep spending money like this. I think doing this kind of challenge and just tracking every single thing you spend in a week, looking at all of your subscriptions, making sure that you cancel anything that you don't actually need is a really great thing to do at the start of every year or just the start of every quarter, just to make sure that you're going to be on track to meet the goals that you are looking to meet. I think especially with social media, people are constantly telling you, you need this, you need that. Your life is probably just fine the way that it is, and really just like double checking, re-verifying, and making sure that you are not spending money that doesn't need to be spent is incredible. incredibly important and certainly something that I need to work on. Now, if you compare this with a video that I filmed 3 years ago, I only spent $700 that week. And in comparison, this is a much higher number. I will say back then we were living in a very small apartment where the rent was much cheaper, and I was also splitting it with Kevin, so things were a little bit different then. Our income has also changed a lot since that time, which I'm deeply grateful for, but definitely leads me to think that perhaps I should do a little bit of self-reflection when it comes to lifestyle creep. I hope you enjoyed watching this video. Please give it a thumbs up if you did. Let me know if you have any thoughts or video requests in the comments below, or if there's anything that you feel like I could have done better. I had a great time filming this video, and I can't wait to see you guys next week. Don't forget you're a 10 out of 10. Don't let anyone ever make you feel otherwise, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!